Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Around the Ropes YouTube exclusive. Now, this past weekend, Immortal Championship Wrestling, I butchered the name already, held their latest show up in Rome, New York, called Road to Immortality. And it was, if you listen to the live show this past week, it was probably one of the most historical shows that Immortal has done. And one of the moments was the World Heavyweight Championship match, where we got crowned a new World Heavyweight Champion. And returning to the show for the first time in over a year. Yes, folks, it's been that long since this guest has been on with us. Your new Immortal Heavyweight Champion, Sean Carr. Sean, how you doing tonight?
Oh, dude, I am doing just absolutely amazing. Glad to be back. Glad to be back on the podcast. Glad to talk to the people. And yeah, it was a very historic weekend for Immortal Championship Wrestling.
And let's start off with that, because you made your return back to the company back in July of last year.
Yes.
After taking some time away. Now, when you look back on it, do you think that was obviously it was the best thing? Look at where you're positioned now, but do you think that helped you get to where you are now by taking that little bit of a hiatus from the company?
I did. I think that there came a point in time with me and Immortal where we just kind of had to go our separate ways. Maybe I had to leave the territory and learn a new hold, and I think they needed to really sift through some talent and see what they wanted and what they didn't want. And it was cool because we were able to come back together and we were able to, to create some cool magic. And when Mike offered me, when he called me up and he was like, "Hey man, I really want to bring you back. I really think that you'd be obviously a great addition to the roster." I looked at the roster and I was like, "Wow, a lot has changed." And there was a lot of people that I had really good matches with. There was a lot of people that I haven't wrestled yet. And I think there was a lot of cool opportunity. He was drawing really good. And I was like, this is going to be, I don't know what's different about it, but something is. And this is a place I want to make home. So, we worked out all the kinks and I came back, and it has been absolutely amazing ever since.
Well, I was there when you made your return at the show in July, and you took on Lindsay Dorado. And I said this to you before we started recording, but I think I can speak for every fan of Immortal Championship Wrestling. When you went to the ring and we saw it when you took on Lindsay, we saw it in the triple threat match, and the two triple threat matches, actually. What am I kidding? Not just the Utica one, the one that we just saw in Dwaynesburg. Well, if you want to be technical, actually 3.
Yeah, I've had a lot of triple threat matches since coming back.
It's been match of the year. I think if I actually remember correctly, I think your match with Lindsay was one of the candidates for match of the year for the
It was, and I think it came in second next to Garrett Holiday, one of Garrett's matches. It might have been his match with Eddie Edwards, but thank you. Yeah, I mean, like I said, like Mike and his sons, Immortal as a whole, like they really gave me the platform to really showcase what I can do and give me the platform to really, showcase the 16 years of experience that I have. And it's always fun. The fans are honestly what make the matches even more special because they're so passionate. They're so into it. And like when you're in the ring and you're hearing how electric they are, it just pushes you more and more and more. And you just want to really steal the entire show. So, but yeah, thank you. It is, it's been fun. Every match I've had since coming back has been a banger. And the one thing I always want to do is I always want to try to leave the fans leaving that night feeling like they got their money's worth, and if that is the case, then it's a job well done in my opinion. So, but I appreciate you saying that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I want to look specifically at the match you had with Lindsay, because how tall are you, by the way? It's
I'm every bit of 6'1.5", pushing 6'2".
Now, okay, with you being 6'2", you took on Lindsay at the Cobleskill show last July, and honestly, you came off like you were a cruiserweight in that match.
Yeah, thank you. That is where the moniker Hybird comes in, because it doesn't matter who I'm in the ring with. I can always adapt. And I always tell people, like, when they ask why hybrid, and it's like, well, it's because I'm everything. I'm a mixture of everything. You could bring a luchador in, I can wrestle a luchador. You could bring in Enzo Amore, and I could, try to do his little shuffle and kick him in the face. Whatever the task is at hand, I feel like I can handle, and that's why we landed on the moniker name Hybrid. So, but thank you. Yeah, he definitely was well conditioned and was hard to keep up with, but I appreciate you saying that.
Well, especially I remember that building that night, and I was sitting there as a fan, and I was sweating my ass off. I can only imagine what it was like
hot.
for you guys in the ring.
Oh my God, it was hot. And for those watching this that weren't there or don't know what we're talking about, like, it was literally in a barn in the middle of upstate New York in Cobleskill, New York in July. It was hot. It was hot, it was humid, but sometimes, like, those conditions, they bring out the best, because it just makes you want to push that much more in the ring. And yeah, I mean, for anyone who would sit there during that heat, and especially when you get a hole, because there was like 600-700 people there that night, and that just makes it even hotter. You know what I mean? But that just shows you the fan base that Immortal has built up over the years, and how their fans will sit in the worst of, I don't want to say worst of conditions, but in hot conditions and cold conditions, and any condition possible to support the company and to support the wrestling that's being performed in front of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I believe me, I figured it out, with the exception of the two Westmoreland shows last year, the one that Immortal held in June and the one that they held in September. I made the trip for every Immortal show since I started going to Immortal, which was in February of last year.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
You make the towns, brother.
Like I said before, I travel like I'm an independent wrestler, but I don't get paid like I'm an independent wrestler.
Yeah, hopefully that'll change one day.
Oh, I'm hoping, trust me. But after that, we had the show in Utica at the Nexus Center. Now, I remember walking in there. Now, I walked in there, obviously, with the ring announcer, Ryan Peterson. And as a fan, I was walking in like, okay, am I about to see a WWE show? Because this was like, compared to the Cobleskill show, it might as well be walking into the Garden, I feel like.
Yeah, it was a big building. It was a big building, air conditioned. It was in the, it was right in the middle of Utica. There were some big names on the show. Like, yeah, it was. And I believe that was the very first time they broadcasted on IWTV, wasn't it?
I think that was that may have been Premiere.
No, that was on pay-per-view, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Premiere. And the biggest thing I remember, because I think you were in the ring actually when the announcement was made at the Cobleskill show that there was going to be air conditioning.
Yeah, and the whole place erupted. They're like, yes, bring us that air conditioning.
But for somebody like you who's been doing this for as long as you have, when you got to the building that day for that show, knowing how big that show was, what was going through your mind walking into the doors of that building?
For me, it's weird. I always try to keep myself pretty humbled on everything. No matter where I'm at, what I'm doing, or how big or how small the show is, like, I always try to just humble myself, and I try to enjoy the moment afterwards. But, showing up, I was like, this is a nice building. This is definitely where you want to have your really big shows at. This is where you draw the most people, hopefully, and you get more of the return back. But for me, honestly, like, because that show it was me versus Enzo Amore versus Colin Delaney. So, those are two former WWE superstars. And it's like, I just wanted to make sure that, through all the experience I have, that I was, going to be able to keep up on my end and hopefully come out of that match on top. But yeah, it was definitely a cool moment. It was definitely something I'm looking forward to, and when we go back there in July for Immortal. And yeah, I always just try to really take in on the really big shows, like really make it, hey, this is pretty cool. You should really like take a step back and live in the moment and really soak it all in, because that's what memories are made from. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was definitely a cool experience.
But the biggest thing I remember was sitting there and I'm walking through the building, just looking at everything, and I'm like, this is about to hold an independent wrestling show.
Yeah.
It kind of took me back for a minute. I'm like, and I agree with what you said before though, with Immortal has done very well that they could afford a building like that and bring in the people they did for that. Because like I said, I've been going to Immortal shows now since February of last year. And the one thing I have noticed in all the shows I've been to, it seems like the crowd gets more electric.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's such a cool thing too, because that's what like the diehard homegrown fan base of any wrestling promotion really, that's I mean, it just takes those diehards to really get the other people really into it and stuff. And you nailed it on the head. I mean, my gosh, they've just been killing it lately, and the fans are so energetic. Like, it's just it's sometimes the fans are just as much a part of the show as the wrestlers or the lights or whatever, just on their reactions to everything, and it really helps tie in everything that's going on as we're performing.
No, I totally agree. And then, correct me if I'm wrong here, after the Utica show, your next match with them wasn't until the Dwaynesburg show, correct?
Yeah.
I don't
So
remember.
I came back, and then I know. So the good thing about independent wrestling, right, is like there's a lot of it now. And
Yeah,
I
that's an
know that
understatement.
the couple companies had to switch around some dates, and I already had commitments with them. So I think that was why I couldn't really come back to Immortal. And then we started getting into the winter months and everything, and it was sometimes it's harder to travel and things like that. And I know Mike usually takes a good break in the winter time anyway. Like, he really doesn't run shows that much in the dead of winter. So, but yeah, then he called me up and he was like, "Hey man, I'd love to, let's keep this train going, and I'd love to get you going back." And it's funny, I'm going to tell you something that not a lot of people know, but we'll throw it out there. When he first called me to come back for this year, I told him that I was thinking about walking away from pro wrestling, and it took three very close friends of mine, because there's a lot of stuff going on with a lot of things, and it was just, I was letting it get the best of me. But he said, "Well, if you change your mind, please call me back." And I talked to Cade Lothbrook, uh, Garrett Holiday, and I talked to my future wife, and they all said, "You should go back. You should go follow. There's something that you're not, you know, you're still chasing the dragon, as we call it. You're still chasing something that you can't, you got to just go, and until you feel full and fulfilled, like, there's no quit." Right. So I called Mike back up about 2 days later, and then that was it. He goes, "Great. Going to put you in a triple threat match with Facade and Spencer Slade, and we'll see what happens from there." And then again, like, everybody has these moments, right, in wrestling, where it's like you go through your peaks and valleys and stuff. And I was definitely in a valley at the time, but the one thing I will say is that what happened this past weekend has really, you know, ignited a lot of the fire that I still have left for this. And it really, when that 3 count hit, I was just blown away. I'm not gonna lie. I never thought I was gonna win another championship in pro wrestling, let alone be the first ever 2-time Immortal Heavyweight Champion. So yeah, so it meant a lot, and yeah, it's everything that's been going on lately has been very positive, and it's been cool. I've kind of left the nonsense behind me, and yeah, I just kind of focusing on what makes me happy, and Immortal's at the top of that list. So it's been a cool ride.
Well, first of all, I'm happy to hear that you didn't walk away from pro wrestling, because
Thank you.
I think I saw it at the you're welcome. I saw it at the Dwaynesburg show, and I saw it a lot at the Rome show, especially with the Rome show when you won, and me having the opportunity to be one of the cameramen. I kind of got that different feeling when the whole crowd started chanting your name, and I was like, yeah, Sean is definitely over with the Immortal crowd. Now, you're welcome. When the match was originally announced with you, Facade, and Spencer Slade,
Yeah,
I could be wrong on this, but I think originally it was just going to be a triple threat match. And then I think maybe like a week or two before the show, they said, no, it's actually going to become the number one contenders match for Garrett's title. Well, my question is, when they made that switch, did your mindset change at all leading into that match, or did you have the same mindset, had it been just regular triple threat match?
I think when you announce 3 people in one match that have the reputation and the name value, and I think that was kind of like Mike put that match together, and I think he really was like, yeah, like whoever wins this should get a shot at the heavyweight title. It didn't really change my game up. I knew going into it that, man, Facade has been doing it as long as me. I think a little longer. He's gone all over the world. You know what I mean? He's still out there crushing it. Spencer Slade currently on the NWA, and he's doing his thing. And then you got me, where I've been, popping up here and there at different places and doing what I do. That it really, I think Mike was just kind of set on, whoever wins this they're destined to wrestle Garrett for the championship. So didn't really change the game up, but it was more like, okay, yeah, that's because that's who we are, and then we're gonna kill it. So.
And I think it's safe to say, and if any future ring announcer wants to use this moniker for you, go right ahead, especially if it's Matt DeCorp with Immortal, go right ahead. I think it's best that they start calling you Mr. Triple Threat now.
I know. I've been having them. Like, it's funny. My match on the day after Immortal, I was supposed to wrestle Ethan Page, and that got turned into a triple threat match. So it's like, man, I've just been doing triple threat matches like they're going out of style.
But obviously, we get to the show in Rome, and originally it was supposed to be you versus Garrett.
Yeah.
But then a few days prior to the event, all of a sudden, a ghost from the past, I don't know if that's the right way to put it.
Popped
his head into him and said that he wants to make it a triple threat match.
Yeah, and it's and I've had my history with Slick Wagner Brown. I know so is Garrett. I know Wags is the very first ever Immortal Championship Wrestling champion. And what a lot of people don't know is in Rome and a lot of that area up there used to be a company called 2CW that me and Slick Wagner Brown wrestled at very frequently. So, couple things. Rome holds a special place in my heart because that is the place where I had my breakout match. Years and years and years and years and years ago, I wrestled Eddie Edwards when he was pretty hot with Ring of Honor. I think he just lost the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. And there's Sean Carr, about to set the world on fire. And that one match I had with Eddie changed my entire life in independent wrestling. And it happened in Rome. So Rome always holds a special place in my heart. And I've had amazing matches there. I've wrestled Colin there for 2CW. I wrestled JT Dunn, so like I've always had that special connection with those fans up there. And Wagner too. So I knew when they added Wagner to the mix, it's like, well, this is some, I know what I'm getting myself into with this because I've wrestled Wagner. I think the last time I wrestled him was 10 years ago. So it was pretty cool to get in there with him again.
Well, now let me ask you this though. Obviously, you've been saying for the last couple minutes now, you've had a lot of singles matches turn into triple threat matches. and I know I asked you this before with the number one contenders match, but overall though, if you're going into a match and you know, okay, it's me versus Garrett, for example, or it's me versus this person, and then also a few days beforehand they're like, oh no, we're going to add a third person and make it a triple threat match. Does that change anything as far as with you preparing for the match, or is it still the same day in the office?
That's one of the deals where at first it's like, okay, there's another human being that's being added to this, but at the end of the day, same goal, same mission, get that 3 count and try to get the victory. And you start trying to think of different things like, okay, well, what am I going to do in this situation? What am I going to do in that situation? But as far as, preparation, you still just go into it going, well, it's still all on me. So I still got to get out of there with the win. So it's triple threat matches are definitely tricky, but, you got to prepare for them in a different way. But, same mission.
And the one thing I will say is I love your entrance music, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's the Holy Diver by it's a cover originally written by Dio, and I used the Kill Switch Engage version. So I've been using that forever. I've always, I got to a certain point where I'm like, maybe I should change it. And then it was my one trainer, Rob Cook, was like, you can't. They know you by that now. So I was like, yeah, good point. So
I'm just a mark whenever I hear hard rock music as an entrance.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Because for some reason, and I'm coming at it from a fan's perspective, even like if I'm at a show and I know a lot of times, they'll play music before the show starts. If all of a sudden, like I hear like Kill Switch Engage, Metallica, something of that nature,
Sure,
basically something where you can't put it on a volume of like 2.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
It gets my adrenaline going almost.
Yeah, and that's I'm a huge fan of hard rock music. I love metal and new metal and hard rock and all that. So like that's a part of me, and it's cool that I can showcase that a little bit in the entranceway. So yeah.
Okay, you said you're a fan of hard rock. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Oh, here we go.
Mount Rushmore hard rock bands.
Ooh, so that's hard. That's hard because I feel sometimes the lines are blurred, and it's everyone's opinion, right? So, yeah. Mount Rushmore of hard rock, man, that's a tough. I could do you. How about we do this? I can give you my 4 favorites that I always go to.
Okay, that works.
My number 1 is Shinedown. I love Shinedown. I listen to Shinedown all the time. Second would be Papa Roach. I love Papa Roach. Third on the list is Slipknot. I used to I still love Slipknot, but they were always the go-to. And 4 is tough. 4 could be any 4. Man, who's on the playlist right now? I'm trying to think. I can go 3 Days Grace. I could do that, But again, it's so hard because there's so many amazing bands that I grew up with that are still out there kicking ass, making music and having fun. And then there's a lot of amazing old school stuff from the late 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s and everything like that, where it's so hard to really limit to, 4 or 5 top. But those are probably my 4 top. Obviously, if you're going to go with Mount Rushmore, I'm just going to put 1 on the list because I feel like everybody who gets in the hard rock metal game doesn't copy them, but is inspired by them, and that'd be Metallica. Oh. I feel like everybody, really pulls a lot from what they've done throughout their existence. So.
No, but my whole thing with it is, I laugh now where people will turn around to me and go, oh, have you heard about this guy? And I'm like, if you ask me now about a lot of the artists now and the bands now that are out there, I'm like, I'm not old per se.
Yeah.
And I'll turn around and I'll hear all of a sudden a new song, like who the hell is that? But yet that if you put on Metallica, you put on Anthrax, Slipknot, I'm talking the older stuff.
Sure. I think that's a generational thing though, because like I feel like when we were younger, there was that little thing called MTV, and they actually played music videos on it, or VH1 and whatever your thing was. And that was really, and we didn't have like, you actually had to go to this thing called a record store and buy CDs or tapes or records. You couldn't just stream everything on your phone, and there wasn't really like that giant heel of life called social media. Like when I was first discovering a lot of bands and everything, like you literally, you were hanging out with your friends and you listen to something like, oh, that's cool. Who is that? Oh, it's this band called Linkin Park. And then you turn on MTV and there's music videos of whatever. And I think that's why it always stuck fresh in our head, where now music, just like wrestling, the whole scene has changed drastically on how they get stuff out. Now all you need is an Instagram, a TikTok, and for them SoundCloud or whatever, and you're good. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a different way to market yourself.
Not to date myself here, but I still remember the days where if you wanted to download a song, you had to go through a LimeWire.
LimeWire, Napster, oh yeah, there was all that good stuff. Yeah, then iTunes came out, and then I'll never forget, my friend taught me on how if you drag LimeWire, like when it's done downloading, you could drag it over to iTunes, and then you can put it on your old Apple, listening device, MP3 players or iPods before they had phones on them. So, yeah, it's crazy, man. It's wild on how much things have changed in the last 15, 20 years. But here we are.
It's weird, but like I laugh though, because people, when they see me, especially like guys who I work with now, know if I'm coming into the parking lot, they know that I either have especially if it's a nice sunny day like we've had the last couple of days.
Sure.
I'll usually have the windows open, and I'm usually blasting some heavy rock.
Sure.
Like you can feel the car vibrating.
For sure.
Well,
that's how you do it, man.
Well, because to me, you can't listen to like Metallica. You can't, and we'll get back into the wrestling stuff here in a second. You can't listen to like Metallica Enter Sandman, for example, and listen to it like a volume of like 3.
No, absolutely not. You got to crank that. You gotta really feel it. You got to make sure that everybody around you feels it too. You know what I mean? So I totally get that, 100%.
Well, the best part that I know pisses people off is when it's 7 o'clock, like 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to work, and it's a traffic jam, and the car is rattling because I'm listening to Metallica or AC/DC, and I see the guy next to me is giving me that look of can you lower it? It's like early in the morning. Like, nope. But I'm also the same guy who'll have AC/DC blaring at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm making my 5-hour trip home.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you got to do whatever works for you, right?
But I want to get back into, because obviously, at the Rome show, you did, obviously we mentioned this a couple of times, that you did win the title. And has it hit you yet that you are the champion? And if it did hit you, when was that moment that it hit you?
It hit me the next morning. It always does. It never hits me in the moment. It never hits me that night. Everyone's saying congratulations. Everybody's saying everything, and I think it's more of the adrenaline is still going. But I had a moment when I woke up on Sunday before I went off to the gym, and I came downstairs and I looked at it. I was like, man, how did we get here? You know what I mean? But that's when it was like, all right, yeah, no, this is pretty cool. This is I felt like 2015 Sean Carr all over again, which is cool. Because I mean, you go when you're any kind of a performer in wrestling, right? You have those years where you get put over a lot and you really build a resume and your name. And then, some years go by, and then all of a sudden there's a new crop of talent coming through. And now you got to be the put over guy. You got to be the guy that, does the honors and hopefully lets people. So for me to have another cool moment of winning a championship was really special. And it was a Sunday after, it was the day after that I was like, yeah, this is that happened. All right, let's keep this train going. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it was very cool.
Now I'm figuring, obviously, would have hit you either way, but I figured this championship win probably meant more to you because it was in Rome, a city that you just said before you have such a huge connection to.
Yeah, it meant a lot. I mean, I had to go back and watch the clip of the 3 count and the reaction of the people and everything, and that's when I was like, okay, this is that was definitely really special and really cool.
And
So yeah,
no,
it was definitely no, it was definitely especially like everything I've been through in the last few years and everything. Like that title win meant a lot. It really did.
and I think it's safe to say when you super kicked Wagner Brown's head off after his little thing, I think they're still scraping off his head off the ground as we
Yeah,
speak.
I heard that there's still a mark there, and they're still trying to figure out how to get part of them off. But yeah, no, that was cool.
But I will say that I will say this much though: your super kicks, and maybe it's because I get the chance to be ringside now, so I get to see them in action compared to being like 2 or 3 rows in the with the fans.
Yeah,
And you and like obviously I'm sitting there with the camera trying to make sure I'm getting everything on there, but then I'm also looking up sometimes just being that. So it's like I'm kind of doing both, being a fan but also being a cameraman. And like I'll even sit there and be like, "Ow, that hurts."
yeah, yeah. They I don't need a million of them like some of these other J Browns. I only need 1 or 2, and then I can call it a night. I don't have to throw 900 of them in a match.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. But now that we're in the hybrid era, that's what I'm calling this now, the hybrid era.
I like it. I like it.
What can for the fans of Immortal, and I guess you can even say it to the locker room as well. What can they expect of the hybrid era now that
They
you
can
are
expect,
top of the top?
they can expect every single night. I'm not going to take it easy. I'm not going to phone it in. I'm not going to, just do enough to get by. Like, you want this belt, you got to come get it. And my father always told me a motivated Sean Carr is a very dangerous Sean Carr. And I'm now more motivated than anything else. And I appreciate how you said that every single match that I've had that you've seen me come back to has been match of the year candidate. And I guess my goal for the end of this year is to be people are going to have to select which one of my matches is match of the year and no one else is on the list. And that may be a cocky thing to say, but I feel like being the champion and having the responsibility of being the main event and the guy, you got to have that attitude. And maybe it'll encourage the rest of the roster to say, oh, yeah, we'll watch this. And I feel like if there's healthy competition within the company, the fans are going to really benefit from it. And they're going to tell their friends and family, yo, these guys are crazy. You got to come watch one of these shows. And then it'll just hopefully grow more and more and more. But that is my goal. My goal as champ in the hybrid era is to definitely every single time when I walk back through the curtain to be like, yep, that's why I'm the champ. That's why I'm the main event. Because none of you can follow
And
me.
it's not. No, I get what you're saying, and you're saying before, that you thought it was cocky of you to say that. It's not at all, because you've earned this. This wasn't.
Yeah, I appreciate.
It's not like
Yeah,
it's not like. No, I was gonna say it's not like they turned around and said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna okay, Garrett, give me the belt. Okay, Sean, here you go."
yeah, no, yeah, it was earned.
It was.
It was earned 100%. And the one thing I know that it sucks is Garrett was a champ and he didn't technically get pinned. And it's like I said in the one of the intermissions. Whenever Garrett gets done kicking the ever living dog crap out of Shane Stetson, anytime he wants that rematch, it's there for him. It's there. I'm not ducking it, not hiding it. I'm not trying to shy away from it. I've beaten Garrett Holiday before. It's funny because if you ask Garrett who one of his biggest inspirations isn't this, he'll say that it's me. So, it's just one of those things where, when he takes care of his business, I'll make sure that he gets his proper rematch, and then he can I don't know, maybe put the cowboy hat back on or something. But I'm not going to shy away from his rematch.
So I'm just going to say this now, Mike. When you watch this later on, there is a show coming up July 13th, Utica, New York.
There
Just say
is. There is, but Mike might have already told me who my opponent is if I get past Sebastian Braun. And I'm not taking anything away from Garrett Holiday because I think he might have his hands full with Shane Stetson that night. I don't know. But we'll wait till after we'll wait till after the Sebastian Braun match, and let's just say that that opponent I also have history with, and it'll be really good to get back in the ring with.
Oh, okay. Now, honestly, I can't wait to see that. I want to touch briefly on who you have coming up at the Gateway to Immortality show, June 8th.
Yes.
It is June 8th, yeah. I want to make sure I got the dates correct in my head.
So many dates. No, it's good. It's Sebastian Braun. He won the Rumble this past week. Very shocking, but huge upset. I really thought I was watching it, and I really thought it was going to be Bill Collier. But yeah, Sebastian Braun, he got his gateway to immortality, and I've watched him for years now. I know he's part of Hot Stuff Inc. or Stuff's Hot or whatever they are. He says he's the good-looking god. To each their own. But maybe, and I guess maybe this is more towards Sebastian Braun, but maybe you should stop focusing on the good looks for this match because you're gonna have your handful. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We'll see what happens. And I really hope and pray for Shane Stetson's sake that he doesn't get involved in this match because I got a size 12 that'll make its way on the left side of his face, and there ain't nothing he can do to stop that. So, but yeah, I'm all for it. And Sebastian Braun, you earned this title shot, and this is my very first title defense, and I can't wait to make it a very memorable one. And I hope he brings everything he's got. Even if he wants to shake his hips a few times, that's fine. But the result is the same. And you're going to be hearing that holy diver at the end of the night. So,
Well, first of all, I'm going to say this right now. I think if you were to take a size 12 to the left side of Shane's face, I don't think there's going to be anybody in the crowd at Immortal Championship Wrestling who'd be pissed off by that.
I don't think so either. And that's the beautiful thing. I can get paid and kick people in the face that nobody likes and not get arrested for it. So that's a cool thing.
I would say, isn't that one of the big things about being a pro wrestler?
That is the amazing thing about being a pro wrestler, for sure.
But not looking beyond Sebastian here. But yeah. I'm confident enough that you're going to get past Sebastian at the June show. Who are some of the people on the roster right now who you would love to, if they earn a title shot or not, that you would love to be in the ring with for that title?
Well, I will say this. Anytime I get in the ring with Bill Collier, he always pushes me to the absolute limit and back. I would love to, get in there with him. And Bill's one of those guys that I respect so much because when you think of the word pro wrestler, you think of Bill Collier, tall, big, strong, looks the part, is the part. There's Bill, but I think that you're going to start seeing a lot of the undercard talent. I think Skyros is going to have an absolute banger with Minoru Suzuki, and I think that's going to put him into a whole different class. He's going to be put right up there with, even as a tag champ, you can't look past Mike Skyros. But the other ones I'd like to say is Matic. I think Matic has a lot to offer any wrestling company. Karate gi or not, Matic is a very dangerous competitor, and at any given time, I mean, he just posted a photo the other day, and my gosh, he's like the Ultimo Dragon of New York. You know, he's got so many championships around his waist, and he's earned them. You know what I mean? I'm not taking anything away from Matic. But there's so many. I mean, you know, I'd love to see TJ Epics come back and his partner Chael Connors. I think they'd be really good. I think the two of them are single stars waiting to just burst out and break away from each other. I love to get in there again with Garrett, you know, and anyone in between. Listen, if you earn the right at a title shot, I'm not gonna shy away from you. I'm not gonna, you know, run and tuck my tail between my legs or tell Mike King, "Yeah, that isn't the match for me." You earn it, then bring it. And I feel that you're gonna start seeing, just like on how last Saturday was like a total change in the landscape. I think you're gonna start seeing a lot of different guys and gals really step up and, you know, take their own immortality, if you will, and really work their way up the card. It's a great time to be a fan of Immortal because you're going to start seeing a lot of cool stuff. And I can't wait to see what the future holds with it.
I completely agree. Honestly, the fact that I get to experience it, not in the ring, because I've never said I will be an athlete like that because it can be nuts. But the fact that I get to experience ringside and cover it on this podcast, sure. I can't wait for what the future holds. It's funny you bring up the name Mike Skyros because you two do have history together at another company that you are a part of. And we were talking about this beforehand. That was the last time you were on here was before your ladder match with him.
Yeah.
At the Xcite show. And I want to talk about Xcite briefly here because you just had a rather all ego opponent this past weekend.
Yeah, I did. So we you know rolled into my hometown of Binghamton at the second heavyweight title shot in a weekend, and I was scheduled to wrestle all ego Ethan Page from AEW. And then that match ended up getting turned into a three-way with Cade Lothbrooke, and I was able to get in there with Mr. Ethan Page and learned a lot. We have a very mutual respect for one another. Great match, hard-fought match. He ended up pinning Cade Lothbrooke, and Cade and I have some unfinished business that we're going to try to tend to on May 11th. We're going to enter Binghamton in a Binghamton street fight, so that'll be live on Twitch. So that's going to be him and I have been going back and forth for a while now. But Xcite is doing their thing. They just announced that for our big shows in August, I believe it's August 3rd and 4th, we do what's called Speedy Fest in Binghamton. And for August the Saturday, I want to say it's the 2nd, but I don't have a calendar in front of me. So whatever that Saturday is, we're bringing in Trish Stratus for a meet and greet, which is pretty cool. Yeah, that's definitely one of those that are on the bucket list for any of us, you know, who grew up in the Attitude Era and watched female wrestling evolve into what it is today. But Xcite is they're doing great. You know, you can do the twitch.tv/Xcite Wrestling. You can watch all their shows from past like 2 years. So it's pretty cool.
And it would be, you said it's the first Saturday of August?
Yes.
August 3rd.
August 3rd, that's it. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. It'll be August 3rd and 4th.
Okay, yep. So on August 3rd, we will have Trish. I know they're trying to get more guests to come out, but it'll be a good time for sure.
Now, if you have an independent wrestling fan who's never been to Xcite Wrestling, what would you tell them as far as, you know, this is one of the reasons why you should come to Xcite Wrestling for a show?
Well, I would say that, you know, if you've never been to an independent pro wrestling show, give it a shot. You know, there was a saying that in a lot of independent companies that, you know, tomorrow's stars are here today. I can't tell you how many times I've done shows with, at Xcite, for example. I mean, my gosh, before AEW was a thing, right before AEW was a thing, I felt like half the roster was our roster. We had the Lucha Bros in for a show. Joe Gacy, who's now in NXT, killing it out down there in Florida. He was our champ. He was one of our guys. Like, you know, and this goes for independent wrestling throughout the entire landscape, right? Like, you never know who you're going to see now, make it later, So it's always a cool thing, and it's always, quick little fun story for you. I'll never forget when I was a fan, I was going to 2CW shows, and I went to a 2CW show and I saw this young skinny kid named Colin Delaney. And I was like, oh, he's pretty good, right? And then before I know it, I'm watching ECW on Sci-Fi, and I'm like, hey, there he is right there on the TV. And it's cool because then years later, Colin will go on to become a very good friend of mine. So, but yeah, I mean, anybody who's on the fence about going to an independent show, just go. You're going to have fun, You're going to have fun. Chances are if it's, kid friendly, it's advertised as kid friendly. And just really tomorrow stars today. I mean, it's the closest thing you're going to get to seeing pro wrestling up close and live. That's not WWE that comes to your town once in a blue moon. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
No, I was going to say it's funny for me being, been since I've been doing this podcast now, which this November will be 3 years. And if any of the big companies, WWE, AEW, even TNA, or any of those are in the Northeast, more precisely New York, and they always have the security team come in.
Yeah.
I always sit there, and I'm looking at it from a fan. Like I remember WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania, and Drew McIntyre had the entrance with all the guys standing there with the swords. Yep. And I was with, Ryan, ring announcer Ryan Peterson, and we were sitting there going, okay, there's one guy we know. Obviously, Ryan knows a lot more guys than I do, but I was even sitting there going, wait, I've met him before. I've spoken to him before. I've seen him wrestle before. But it's like, even like Raw, for example, like when they're in Brooklyn or they're up in, Albany at the MVP Arena, it's the same thing. It's like, I'll look at it and go, okay. And I'm like, okay, any of the extras, I'm like, I'm going to recognize some of them at this point.
Yeah. And that was like when AEW was doing the Dark thing. And like, that's a lot of people were like, oh yeah, we saw you on Dark. And I'm like, really? I was there for like 10 seconds, but cool. You know what I mean? So, it's a cool thing, and that's the thing. You never know, the business is ever changing, the wrestling world is ever evolving, and I mean, there's so many people that you never know. They're at your town on a Saturday, and then before you know it, you turn on Raw, and hey, I think I saw that security guy wrestle in my town this past week. It happens all the time.
But the funny thing is, I always try to take a picture of it, or like if I can get like a quick screen grab of it.
Sure, yeah.
And I'll send it to the press. Obviously, they won't see it right there because they're there. But I even pop right now because I'm like, oh, there's been times where like a show happens on a Saturday, and Raw happens to be like within like a few hours of where the show was.
Yeah.
And also I sit there and go, oh wait, I just spoke to him 2 days ago. Now he's on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works out.
It's an incredible feeling, but. Sean, I appreciate you hopping on. Hopefully next time we have you on will not be another year and a half from now.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, absolutely. I love to come on anytime you want, my man. Anytime.
Absolutely. Before we let you go, I know you do have a few shows coming up. You're more than welcome to plug all the shows you have coming up. And where can the fans connect with you on social media?
So I'm pretty active on the Instagram. Handle is at Sean Carr 88. And then Facebook is there too. I think I'm maxed out on friends, so if I'm not a friend with you, you just have to hit that follow button. I believe is the best way to do it. But yeah, I don't have X or Twitter anymore because that just got exhausting. But yeah, no, I got a lot of cool shows coming up. This Saturday, I got new High Ground Pro Wrestling. I'm going to be wrestling Kit Raff down in the Scranton, Pennsylvania area. Then on the 27th, I got American Excellence Wrestling in Orwigsburg, Pennsylvania. They always do really, really great shows down there. And then it's May 11th is a good old street fight in Binghamton, New York with Xcite Wrestling, and I know there's more stuff in May. Let's see, 18th is One Up Pro Wrestling. It's a brand new thing that's out of the Liverpool, Syracuse area. And then on May 18th is Ground Zero in Rochester with the boys out there. I'm excited for that one because I think that is going to be another big staple in the world of wrestling for Western New York. And then the train rolls on June 8th, and I roll right back to Immortal Championship Wrestling to defend the heavyweight title against Sebastian Braun. So that's the next month and a half worth of stuff. I'm surprised I remembered them. I've been doing better at keeping my bookings and being aware of dates and stuff. So, but yeah, that is where you could catch me at, and the socials. So,
well, Sean, I'm like I said, I was happy we got you back on. The last thing I'm just gonna say, then we'll wrap up with this. I did pop. I think it was you who said it on Saturday when you actually called it Immortal New York.
I did, yeah. I was so taken back by the fact I won the championship that I was like, we're in Rome, New York. I'm more Immortal New York. So maybe I'll say that go ahead.
I would say it might as well be Immortal New York because Immortal runs in Rome. I think Immortal's like one of the only companies that still run in Rome.
Yeah, no, that is it. So maybe I'll change up where I'm from and say I'm from Immortal New York instead of Binghamton. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
But Sean, again, thank you for hopping on. You know the door's always open for you. Anytime you'd like to come back on. Guys, I'm going to give him a new sort of exit here, so hopefully he likes it. Mr. Match of the Year candidate, Mr. Triple Threat, your new ICW World Heavyweight Champion, Sean Carr. I'm John. This has been Around the Ropes, YouTube exclusive. Catch you guys next time.
Thank you so much. See you guys.